Okay, welcome everyone to How to Succeed in the Stock Market with Investors Business Daily. We will get rolling here in just a moment. I know it takes a little while for everyone to file in, but we'll get started here shortly. And just bear with us and we'll get started here in just a moment here.
Thank you, Harold. I'm going to pop in as well just to say to
Okay.
anyone who's looking for something to do while we wait. We do have IBD's virtual booth below the video player. You can go ahead and check out some handouts down there. And as Harold had said, we'll be getting started in just a few minutes at 2:10 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you. Hello again, and welcome to anyone just joining us. This is your Money Show host popping in once more just to let you know that the next presentation will begin on time at 2:10 p.m. in just a couple of short minutes now. Thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the session. Joining us for this one is Harold Morris, Senior Product Coach for Leaderboard and Market Search with Investors Business Daily, also known as IBD. Harold specializes in providing introductory, intermediate, and advanced investing seminars to individual and professional investors alike. And he's here today to share some of that expertise with us. So, to our live viewers, please share any questions or comments that you have throughout this session in the live chat box. It's to the right-hand side of your video player. Time permitting, we'll see if we can get to some of those questions at the end. And with that all said, Harold, I will hand the mic on over to you. I'll be here if you need me, but the floor is
Oh,
all yours.
okay, well, thank you. Thank you for that warm introduction. And welcome, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. Thank you to the Money Show for hosting this. And our topic today is how to succeed with IBD in the stock market. So that's what we're going to talk about. Uh, there we go. So I am your host. Again, my name is Harold Morris. Work here for IBD. Been with the company since, wow, a long time, April of 2002. So uh, my goal is to share my knowledge with you and just how to look at the information that we provide here at IBD and make money in the market. That's why we're all here. If you look at our mission statement, our mission statement is to help our members, our subscribers, help money in the market using the information from IBD. Before we can get into things, we have a disclaimer. So everything we talk about today is for educational purposes only. I am not a licensed broker. No one else here at IBD is a licensed broker. So you cannot call us or email us and ask us specific questions like, what stock should I buy? When should I sell it? We do help you with that, but we can't specifically guide you and give you advice on what to do with the information that you see here with IBD or any other place that you're finding information. So what are we going to do today? So here's our agenda. I'm just going to give you a little background as to who IBD is. We're going to talk about the four pillars of the IBD methodology. This is our growth strategy. Then I'm going to give you a brief overview of the products that we have here at IBD. And then I'm going to spend most of our time on a three-step routine using our IBD digital product. And then I'll show you what we do for providing support and just helping you with the information that we have. And then getting started. How can you get started with IBD? We do have a promotion on the IBD digital product, and time permitting, we'll get into a Q&A. So IBD, who is IBD? So we have been around since 1984. We are founded by William J. O'Neill. Now, Bill, I affectionately call him Bill. He had an institutional product that he started in the early 70s, and then 1984, he came up and started Investors Business Daily. So he wanted to get this information out to the general public. So 1984 is when IBD started, and we were acquired by Dow Jones in 2021. And one of the things I like through the acquisition, I remember right up front, Dow Jones said they just want to let IBD be IBD. So it's been a very smooth transition to us and for us, and it's a very welcome transition. Now, as I mentioned a moment ago, our mission statement is to help our subscribers make money in the market. Well, how do we do that? We have a fact-based system that we use based on rules. And the rules that we have here are based on how the market works. So what we have done over the years is we have looked at how the market works. We study the market, and we would come up with rules on exactly how the market how it behaves, and we created rules around that. So we have research going back into the late 1800s how certain chart patterns. We'll talk a little bit more about chart patterns. How these chart patterns took place back in the late 1800s. So we'll talk about that, and then we have some IBD proprietary IBD ratings to help you rate a stock that'll do a lot of hand holding as far as directing you in the right direction as to what stocks potentially could make you money in the market. So our approach is a lot of people know us as a momentum company, but we do take the fundamentals into consideration. In fact, we are much more fundamentally based than we are technically based. So we like to spot stocks with strong fundamentals, strong sales, profit margins, earnings, things of that nature. And then we like to use the chart patterns to determine our entry and determine our exits. But all your fundamental analysis and your technical analysis, none of that is going to pay off unless you have a good understanding as to what's going on in the market. So we have a very good market timing strategy that we use here at IBD. We won't get in at the absolute bottom. We won't get out the absolute top, but we will capture 80, 90% of an uptrend like we're in now and be out of the market 80, 90% of a downtrend like we were earlier this year when the market topped in February. So IBD. So here's our methodology. So the growth strategy we use here at IBD. So we call it the four pillars of the IBD methodology. So as I mentioned a moment ago, we start out with the fundamentals. We want to spot companies with, strong fundamentals, sales, earnings, profit margins, things of that nature. And then timing. You can't time the market, despite what's commonly said about the market. You can time the market. You cannot predict the market, but you can time the market using technical analysis. And we have a very good market timing strategy, as I mentioned a moment ago. So, and so timing the market, that's pillar number two. Pillar number three is staying in phase with the market. You need to know what the market is doing. And what we do is we look at what the market is doing and then we act accordingly. We don't make any projections as to what we think the market's going to do or where it's going. And again, we look at what the market's doing and then we act accordingly. And pillar number four is risk management, which it's extremely important because uh, you are going to have losses. There's no way around it. But the key to making money in the market and staying in the market for the long term is managing risk. So we have rules for buying, and we have, more importantly, we have rules for selling stock. So risk management is an extremely important part of our methodology, and I probably put this at number one. If it were up to me, I would have this as pillar number one because if you don't manage your risk, you're not going to manage your money properly, and you're not going to be able to make that money last in the market. All right, so I'm going to give you just a brief overview of, whoops, oh, I apologize here. What did I do here? Let me, all right, so here is a brief overview of some of the products that we have here at IBD, starting with the Market Surge subscription. Market Surge, that is our premium product. So Market Surge is for the more advanced, more experienced subscriber. With Market Surge, you have a real good understanding as to what the market is doing. You know when to get out of a stock. You know how to manage risk. So Market Surge is our premium product. Then we have the Swing Trader product, and I'm going to talk about Swing Trader and the leaderboard at the same time. Both products are managed by portfolio managers here at IBD. So with the Swing Trader and the leaderboard, uh, when they go to take a position in a stock, they'll send out an alert saying that we're going to buy this stock at, say, $100, for example. If the stock is working, they may add to the position. So they'll send out another alert that they're going to add to it. If it hits a profit target, they'll send out an alert that they're going to take profits. Or if the position doesn't work out at all, then they'll send out an alert saying that they're going to sell it. Okay, so leaderboard and swing trader are managed by portfolio managers. The difference between the two subscriptions is leaderboard is much more for your long-term investing. They're looking to find a stock with strong fundamentals and strong chart pattern, and they want to hold it as long as possible. Whereas with swing trader, they're looking to get in the stock, hold it for an 8 to 10% profit, and sell it and move on to look for something else. And with swing trader, there are some subscribers just don't like that because it is a lot of in and out trading. So swing trader is again for short-term profits. And then we have IBD Live. IBD Live is a live program that we have here at IBD where we start about 10 minutes before the market opens. We'll talk about the news of the day. And then once the market opens, there's always four panelists that we have, and we're talking about what's going on in the overall market. And each one of those panelists has a stock that they're interested in, and we'll bring up that stock, show you real time how we would manage the position, where we would buy the stock, where we would sell it, where we would add to it, or maybe we wouldn't buy the stock. So that's IBD Live. We start again about 10 minutes before the market opens, and we'll go for about an hour and a half. And then we have the IBD Digital. So IBD Digital, that's what I call our basic product. But I hate to use the word basic because there's a lot of information in IBD Digital where you can make a lot of money with the information that's in IBD in the IBD Digital product. And we're going to spend most of our time in the IBD Digital product. And then we have a newsletter called Market DM. Now, Market DM, it is an email newsletter that comes out uh, every every day, and it's got a lot of good information. I like to call it a lot of good hard hitting information in that IBD um, um, IBD, excuse me, the Markham DM newsletter. All right, yeah, and let me give me a second here. I lost my screen here. All right, so that's Market DM. And then the IBD Digital, as I mentioned a moment ago. So I'm going to spend most of our time going forward with the IBD Digital. So with the IBD Digital, here's just some of the basic information that you get with the IBD Digital. You're able to check the overall what's going on with the overall market. We have an article called The Big Picture, probably the most important part of IBD because the Big Picture article gives you details as to what's going on with the overall market. And you need to know what the market is doing because we know that stocks will follow the trend of the market. So that's what's discussed in the big picture article on a daily basis. In that big picture article, we have this what's called the market pulse. This is a little image of the market pulse where we show you our exposure level. So you see the current outlook right here. Let me get my little drawing tool here, my new toy here. So right over here, we have the exposure level. So basically what we're telling you is that in this example, 20 to 40% of your portfolio should be invested in the market. Right now, we are recommending that 40 to 60% of your portfolio should be invested. And actually, we're saying, hey, you need to be more towards the lower end because of what's going on in the overall market. So that's in the market pulse. And we'll talk more about this in just a moment. We have a lot of podcasts with guests, special guests from outside of IBD. We have some money managers who use the IBD methodology. We also have podcasts featuring some of the traders here at IBD. So we also have a lot of lists in IBD. IBD is most known for the IBD 50. And the IBD 50 is basically, I like to describe it as the top 50 growth stocks according to IBD. And I was looking at the IBD 50 and I took some notes here. The mining sector and the biomed sector as a market, those two sectors are doing very well in today's market. And looking at the makeup of the IBD 50, there are 10 stocks on the IBD 50 in the mining sector, 11 stocks in the biomed. So almost half the stocks in the IBD 50 are in some of the strongest sectors of today's market. So we'll talk a little bit more about how to use the IBD 50. So that's one of the major stock lists that have IBD. We have the stock of the day, there's stocks on the move, which is a screen for which highlights stocks that are moving up in volume, strong price movement up in volume. There's a little image of that right over here. There's a stock screener in the as a part of IBD Digital. You can create stock lists. So you can create 5 different lists, and each list can hold up to 50 stocks. So once you look at a stock like the IBD 50, then you can put those stocks on a stock list to track them. And then once you find a stock from the IBD 50, you want to use the stock checkup to do a further evaluation as to what's going on with that particular stock here. All right, so the IBD Digital. So I'm going to walk you through a 3-step routine on how we use the IBD Digital. Okay, so step one is the current market, because again, you have to know what the market is doing because we know that stocks follow the trend of the market. So once we get a good understanding as to what's going on with the market, we're then going to start to look for stocks. I mentioned the IBD 50. You can use the IBD 50. That's our primary list, but there are other strong lists as a part of the IBD Digital. There's a list called the IBD Sector Leaders, and another list, which is I like better than the IBD 50. There's a list called the Stock Spotlight. So those are the 3 major lists that you use as far as finding stocks. And then once you find a stock from one of those lists, then you're going to evaluate the stock. When I say evaluate it, you're going to plug it into a tool called the stock checkup. All right. So step one, the current market. So If you're on investors.com, you'll go to the market trend. Under market trend, that's where you click on the big picture article. And as I mentioned a moment ago, the big picture article gives you details as to what's going on in the overall market. The article gets updated daily. It gets updated at around 6 to 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. So later on today, that's when the big picture article will be updated to reflect what happened in today's market. So when I open up the big picture article, the first thing I'm looking at is this market pulse here, and then I'm looking at the exposure level. And as I mentioned a moment ago, the exposure level that we have right now is at 40 to 60%. So we will adjust the exposure level depending on what's going on with the overall market. The market topped, if you remember, October 10th is when we had that big downside reversal. And ever since then, the market's pretty much been going sideways. And the last two Fridays, we've had a couple of what I call head fakes. What I mean by that is the market, it it sold off, and then by the end of the day, it closed at the top of the range, meaning there was a lot of buying at the end of the day that happened on the last two Fridays. So, and then the market, but then during the week, the market sold off. So last Friday, we had another upside reversal where the market sold off early in the day. It came back at the top of the range. And then this week has been kind of going sideways here. So in the big picture article, they mentioned that, okay, uh, you need to lower exposure, as I mentioned at the very about a few minutes ago about risk management. This is how we manage risk by controlling how much of our portfolio is exposed to the overall market. And right now we are at 40 to 60% with the recommendation. It was actually mentioned in the big picture article, you need to be more at the lower end of our exposure level. And then we also have this category here called distribution days. So the distribution days category, we use this category to identify a potential top in the market. And I use the word potential because just because uh, uh, the market doesn't always top based on what you see in this category, but it could. Now, a distribution day by definition is just when the Nasdaq or the S&P 500 where it closes down in price and on higher volume compared to the previous market day. So again, price is down when compared to the previous market day, and the volume is higher when compared to the previous market day. So that's our definition of a distribution day. And we track them in this category, and we use a time frame of 25 trading days. So currently we have a high number of distribution days. There's like 7 distribution days on the S&P 500, 4 on the NASDAQ. And a distribution day is just a day of selling by the institutions on Wall Street. So we do have a high number of distribution day where there's been a little bit more selling than buying, and that's been reflected in the distribution day count. And as a result of that high selling, we have lowered our exposure to the market. Again, this is how we manage risk by looking at what the market is doing, and then we act accordingly. The market's not doing so well, so we are lowering our exposure level uh, uh, when it comes to looking at the overall market at the moment. And that kind of guidance is given to you in the big picture article. So this is the first thing we do with the IBD Digital is look at what's going on with the overall market. So so step one, we look at what's going on with the market. We have a pretty good understanding as to what's going on in the overall market. And now it's time to find stocks. Even though the market doesn't look so good, you still want to do some research. In fact, it is more important to do research now than it was maybe several months ago when the market was just going up. Because even though the market looks a little bit volatile now, we are down below the 50-day moving average, probably for the first time since the uptrend started back in April. But this down move is not going to last forever. And now's a good time to be doing some research and putting together a list of stocks. Maybe not necessarily to buy, but as I mentioned a moment ago, the 10 stocks from the mining and 11 from the biomed, just on the IBD 50 alone, this is a good time to put together a watch list because those stocks are moving, those stocks are doing very well. And when this uptrend does resume, we'll start raising our exposure level. And the stocks that are doing well now, those tend to be your leaders once the uptrend starts again. Is it going to start again? Yes, we will. Yes, it will. When it will, that's something that we don't know. So that's when I look at the list like the IBD 50. So we have a stock list called the IBD 50, sector leaders, stock spotlight, as I mentioned a moment ago. We also have a section on IBD Digital called Stock of the Day. There's stocks on the move. Stocks on the move. A lot of day traders like to use a stock on the move because it is a continuous dynamic running screen throughout the market session, identifying stocks that are going up in price on high volume. So a lot of day traders like to use the stocks on the move. There's screen of the day where we'll post a screen. So we'll run a screen and give you a list of stocks. There's an IBD stock screener, so you can input your criteria and screen the market based on criteria that you want to use. And then, as I mentioned a moment ago, the stock list. So you can create 5 different lists. Each list can hold up to 50 stocks. So if you're looking at the different lists, like the IBD 50 or the stock spotlight, you can add those stocks to a stock list so you can monitor the performance and then position yourself to buy the stock just by looking at what's going on with that stock there. All right, so this is step two. So step one was the overall market. Step two was looking at the different stock lists that we have here at IBD. And the third thing is evaluation of the stock. So once you find a stock from the IBD 50 or the stock spotlight or any other list that you see on IBD, you want to enter the stock into a tool called the stock checkup. So the stock checkup is a very powerful tool. We know a lot of our current subscribers, they like to use the stock checkup as like a final authority because nowadays, a lot of people are getting information from other areas of the market from other sources, and a lot of our subscribers like to use the stock checkup as a final authority as to, okay, do I want to go forward with this stock as a potential buy? Because what the stock checkup will do, it'll give you a breakdown of stock on 30 different fundamental and technical data points here. And it has all of our IBD ratings. So you can see the composite rating, the EPS rating, the RS rating. These are some of our proprietary ratings that we have here at IBD. And then you see the green dots here. Now, it tells you if it passes or fails a particular criteria. You don't count the number of dots, green dots, and make a decision based on that. You want to look at the details, like the earnings per share or the EPS rating. And then once you're satisfied that the stock meets the kind of criteria that you like to see, it's got the fundamentals that you want to see, it's got the technical setup that you like to see, then you're going to pull up a stock chart. So you need to look at the chart pattern to identify an area where you want to buy the stock here. And you want to spot the optimal buy point for the stock. Now, in the IBD Digital, you can pull up a stock chart and with the list like the IBD 50, in the IBD 50, we have these little stock charts. This is in the paper on the weekends. Below that little stock chart, there's a one-line commentary as to what's going on with that chart patterns. So that's what you'll be using to determine if this stock is a potential buy or not. But you can also look at the stock chart yourself, and maybe sometimes you can find an early entry depending on what type of or how good you are as far as your analysis here. All right, so let's move on. All right, so education. We are very focused on education. As I mentioned, risk management. Education is your number one risk management strategy, in my opinion, because if you don't know what to do, how are you going to properly manage your portfolio? So we are very big on education. So we have a lot of webinars. A lot of our webinars are free. You can go onto investors.com and see a variety of different webinars on a variety of subjects like when to sell, when to buy, how does some of our products work. So we have webinars on investors.com that discuss that. And many of those webinars are free. We do have live events. Now, they are not in person, but we do have live webinars that we give probably about once a quarter on different topics of IBD. And then the IBD University. So I mentioned the IBD ratings that we have, like the composite rating or the EPS rating, or did I say it already? Composite rating, EPS rating, RS rating. So those are the three primary ratings, but you can get definitions of those ratings and other information like our sell rules. Selling is very important because It's not what you make, it's what you get to keep. Okay. And selling is extremely important, but things like that are mentioned in the, or not mentioned, but there's details about selling in the IBD University. And then we have an email newsletter. I mentioned this earlier. It gets delivered, yeah, right around 9 a.m. Pacific time, and it's a hard hitting email newsletter. It's kind of short and to the point. So it's featuring stocks that are setting up. It also features stocks that aren't doing so well. So that Markham DM, it's a very powerful email newsletter, and we do have a special on it. We'll get to that in just a moment. We also have a special on IBD Digital. I'll get to that in just a moment also. So the Market DM, very powerful newsletter, and then Q&A. So any questions that come through on the Q&A there?
Thanks, Harold. And we don't have any questions just yet at this time. But
Okay.
for anyone who might have joined a little bit late, could you maybe give us just a little run through of, what they've missed?
Yeah. So I started out by just giving a little bit of background on IBD, who we are. We started back in 1984. We were founded by William J. O'Neill. Excuse me. So that's a little background on who we are. Um, I talked about our methodology. We have four pillars of our growth strategy, starting with our fundamental analysis. We like to find stocks that have strong fundamentals. And then we like to look at the chart patterns to determine when it's time to enter the stock and when it's time to exit. I mentioned the sell rules a moment ago. The market timing, probably the most important part of our strategy here is the market timing. You have to know what the market is doing because stocks will follow the trend of the market. And then risk management. You got to be able to manage risk because that's how you stay in the game for the long term. Um, you're going to lose money in the market. There's no way around it. But knowing how to manage your risk, and when I say manage your risk, I mean keeping your losses as small as possible and holding on to your winners as long as possible. So that's how we manage risk. And then we have the IBD digital product where we use that to find stocks. I mentioned the tool. Hopefully, you saw the tool called the Stock Checkup, where you can just input a stock. It'll give you a breakdown based on the 30-day data points, 30 technical and fundamental data points. And that's basically it in a nutshell here at
Fantastic.
IBD.
Well, thank you so much,
And
Harold.
one other thing, as I
Yep.
mentioned, the video. So we have a lot of free videos on investors.com. So if you want more information about our methodology, you can watch those videos on our website, investors.com.
I'm going to go ahead and also put that into the chat for those who are watching live. And those of you sitting here who have been enjoying Harold's presentation, once again, you can get more information on IBD from their virtual booth. It's below the video player now, but it will also be in our virtual booth section of the platform if you want to check it out later. And you can, of course, reach out to their team via the inquiry submission form in that booth. Well, I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks again for joining us here. Be sure to stay tuned and you take care.
Well, thank you.